Hello, I'm here with Miss Manuel. She's a third grade teacher here at Ewens Elementary, and she's going to let me interview her today. So could you introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Claudia Manuel. I've been a teacher at UNS for 10 years, but I've been teaching a total of 14 years. Um, I always taught smaller grades, so I taught kinder, second, and third, but I always taught bilingual kids.
Okay, and what languages do you speak?
I speak English and Spanish.
Okay. And then, from your experience, how important are the critical and sensitive periods, and is it possible, in your opinion, for students to learn a new language after those periods?
I think everybody is okay learning a new language. I think if they really, I learned it after I think 15, so I think it's okay. As long as the younger years are more critical, because I think people are less self-conscious, so they're willing to take the chance, they're willing to make mistakes, and they understand it's okay. The older you get, the more afraid you are to make mistakes, so you don't take those chances, and you get more shy and you don't interact as much.
Okay. So would you say that it's like that their motivation is a big part of them learning the language as well versus their skill or aptitude?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the more willing they are and the more fun you make it, the more they learn.
Okay. And how often do you encounter L1 or L2 transfer, and how do you correct it when you see it?
I see it every day. Every day. What I try to do is rephrase it in a language and ask them to repeat it. I always try to make sure they don't feel like they made a bad mistake, like they don't to not offend them, to make sure that they understand that it's okay to make mistakes and that this is the correct way to say it, and that's okay.
Okay. And how has your experience been teaching students who speak neither English or Spanish as their first language? So, like, have you had any, since you do speak Spanish, I'm sure it's a lot easier, but if you maybe had to teach someone whose first language was Chinese or something that you don't speak?
Well, the only time I have the experience is when I do tutorials in the afternoon for math. I have kids that they speak neither or, but they're a little bit more fluent in the English language, so they don't have that much of a language barrier, but we can use a lot of sentence stems to help them complete their answers and to feel more comfortable. What I try to do is I try to do a lot of gestures, and I use a lot of visuals. So when I'm tutoring, I draw really fast, like sketches if it's needed.
Okay. Also, do your students experience foreign language anxiety, and how do you deal with those?
Yes, they do. And they're always self-aware that people might make fun of them. So what we try to do is to make the environment very friendly, and I always let them know ahead of time that it's okay to make mistakes, that we're not here to make fun of anybody, that we're here to learn and support each other. So we always try to, our partners, when they work together, they always try to use sentence stems to help each other and to correct without insulting or making fun of anybody. But they're still kids that still feel anxious or nervous when it's their turn to talk. So the sentence stems help them a lot.
Okay. So they, like, some of them maybe hesitate to speak Spanish, but you just give them that extra support.
Support, yes. So when you see them very anxious, you provide more like a sentence stem where they just have to complete with one or two words. When you see them more confident, then you just give them a short stem so they can express better.
Okay. And then what learning strategies do you incorporate for your bilingual students?
Well, what we use here is SIOP all the time. So we use a lot of background knowledge, trying to get from their own experiences, because they're coming for, even though they all speak Spanish, their cultural background is different. And there's a lot of countries that speak different Spanish, different
Dialects.
dialects and stuff. So we try to incorporate that, the ways that they say it at home, the ways that they have hear it, and then we use the stamps to try to help them make meaning of their learning. We use a lot of visuals, a lot of oral interaction, where they can work in not so like big setting, but in a small setting with like just a partner.
Like small
so they're
groups,
small
partners.
groups and partners, so they don't feel so self-aware like all the whole class is looking at me.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to talk to my friend, and I won't make mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and I can learn from them. So we try a lot of small group partnering discussions,
Mm-hmm.
and then they can write their learning with the sentence stamps and express their thinking.
I know we do a lot of the PSYOP, like the, speaking, writing, and listening, practicing, and all the different activities like the conga line and different things like that.
Inside circle, outside circle, musical chairs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then one last question, I didn't have it, but I thought about it. In your opinion, because I know this is a dual language classroom, so your class is immersion in Spanish. Have you taught classes that are just bilingual, like that are not as much immersion? And what do you think is better, having them do the immersion or just like,
Yeah, I've taught two different programs. The first time I started teaching, we were doing those bilingual where they transition, a slow transition. So when I taught kindergarten, it was mostly Spanish, and the interactions with the teacher are starting to be more in English to try to get them into that non-academic English. And then when I moved to second grade, it was the early immersion. So they switched it to Spanish, to English completely. And I think both models are okay, but it depends on the family background of the kid. If the kid, in my opinion, if a student comes from a family that has more immersion in the English, where parents can help the students, where he can hear it and speak it, then it's easier for them to transition. If they come from a family when they never hear the language and they don't know, and there's no support at home, then it's difficult. It's not impossible, but it's difficult, because we even see here in the dual language where there's kids that are speaking Spanish, but they don't have the Spanish support at home. And you have kids that speak Spanish and they have their support at home, so they're learning it, but they still, like, their transition will be slower.
Okay, so if they have the support at home, then it's better to have immersion or a slow transition? Immersion, okay.
A slow transition if they don't have that support, because you need to build it.
Yeah.
If not, then they're gonna struggle a lot, and they get frustrated, and then they won't do it.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's all the questions I have for you. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.